Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien and rank-and-file Costco Teamsters rallied yesterday in Norfolk, Virginia in support of the union-wide initiative to organize and mobilize workers at the wholesale retailer ahead of national contract negotiations this year.
Let's go ahead and get to last week in Southern labor. So here's what workers in the U.S. South and the American colonies were up to from May the 3rd to May the 10th. In new union campaigns, 14 workers at Dallas Black Dance Theater in Dallas, Texas, filed a petition to hold a union election with the American Guild of Musical Artists. 10 workers at Wells Fargo Bank in Spring Hill, Florida, filed a petition to hold a union election with Wells Fargo Workers United, CWA, as did 5 more Wells Fargo workers in Fort Myers, Florida. The employer filed a petition to hold a union election after a majority of the 29 workers at Generation Hope in Washington, D.C. demonstrated support for unionization with Workers United. 19 workers at Darling International in Bastrop, Texas filed a petition to hold a union election with Teamsters Local 657. Workers likely pushed by their employer filed a petition to decertify the Communication Workers of America, CWA, as the union, representing 53 workers at ADT Security in Lafayette, Louisiana. The employer filed a petition to hold a union election after a majority of the 35 workers at True Timber Arborists in Richmond, Virginia, demonstrated support for unionization with the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, IAMAW. The employer filed a petition to hold a union election after a majority of the 3 workers at Mid-Coast Radio Project in Kansas City, Missouri, demonstrated support for unionization with CWA Local 6360. 67 workers at KLS Martin Manufacturing in Jacksonville, Florida, filed a petition to hold a union election with an unnamed union at on the NLRB's website. 6 workers at All Crane Rental of Georgia in Phoenix City, Alabama, filed a petition to hold a union election with the International Union of Operating Engineers, IUOE, Local 312. 27,000 educators and other school workers in Fairfax County, Virginia, filed for union elections with Virginia's newly established Authority for Public Sector Collective Bargaining with the Fairfax County Education Association. That is going to be a huge win when they get their unions. In campaign updates, Mercedes replaced their CEO ahead of the union election in a bid to follow Governor Ivey's new tact of playing nice. Meanwhile, Pastor Matthew Wilson, a Tuscaloosa city councilor, is apparently being asked and performing for Mercedes, walking up and down the shop floor at the Mercedes plant in Tuscaloosa, encouraging people to vote no in the union election. Is he getting paid for this work? It's unclear at this time. Meanwhile, Alabama college football great Antonio Langham has come out in support of the union campaign, speaking at a pro-union rally last weekend. In election results, 43 workers at Trap Rock and Granite Quarries in Ironton, Missouri, withdrew their petition for a union election with the Laborers International Union of North America, LIUNA, Local 829. 42 workers at Veolia WTS USA in Beaumont, Texas, withdrew their petition for unionization with the United Steelworkers, USW. 23 workers at Liberty Communications of Puerto Rico in San Juan, Puerto Rico, voted 10-11 against unionization with the CWA. 14 workers at Rogers Group in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, voted 5-8 in favor of decertifying LIUNA, Local 1392, as their union. Teamsters Local 688 withdrew their petition to represent 55 workers at Quest Graphics in Maryland Heights, Missouri, that are already represented by the Printing, Packaging, and Production Workers Union of North America, PPPWU, Local 6505M. 8 workers at Liberty Mobile, Puerto Rico, in Guaynabo, Puerto Rico, voted 8-0 in favor of unionization with the CWA. 9 workers at IMI Kentucky in Somerset, Kentucky, voted 7-1 in favor of unionization with the Teamsters Local 89. And 650 Breeze Airways flight attendants nationwide voted 76% in favor of unionization with the Association of Flight Attendants, AFA-CWA. In settlements, grievances, and unfair labor practices, the UAW has filed more unfair labor practice charges with the NLRB against Mercedes, alleging that the employer has disciplined employees for discussing unionization at work, prohibited distribution of union materials and paraphernalia, surveilled employees, discharged union supporters, forced employees to attend captive audience meetings, and made statements suggesting that union activity is futile. This was not in the South, but has ramifications for Southern workers. A National Labor Relations Board administrative law judge found last week that the Atlantic Fire Protection Company committed an unfair labor practice last Christmas when it discontinued its holiday tradition of feeding employees with a roast, ham, and turkey in retaliation for union activity, among other violations.
Hey, 5 seconds, just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
In strikes and bargaining updates, labor share of income continues to fall in the United States. Previously, workers earned about 2/3 of the income that their labor created. Today, it is barely over 50%. Linamar, a manufacturing plant in Hartselle, Alabama, is closing, laying off 152 workers. But the workers are not unionized, so they will not get to bargain over the conditions of their layoffs. You will also not hear about it very much in the news, and the story will not be brought up 20 years from now as an example of why total corporate control is bad. United Mine Workers of America, UMWA members in Birmingham, ratified a tentative agreement between the union and the Crimson Oak Grove coal mine that the union says includes significant wage increases, improvements to paid time off, with no changes to health care or benefits. The vote was 64.4% in favor. Warrior Met is still refusing to engage in negotiations. Daimler workers ratified the tentative agreement between the company and the United Auto Workers, UAW, by an astonishing 94.5%. Those are ratification numbers that you see for strike authorization votes. I've never seen, or no, I have. I've seen a couple of contract authorization votes that come close to that, but generally it's among small units. This is a 7,000 person unit at Daimler over 3 states. So those folks agreeing to the contract, 94.5% is huge and really indicative of the nature of the contract that they won. Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien and rank-and-file Costco Teamsters rallied yesterday in Norfolk, Virginia, in support of the union-wide initiative to organize and mobilize workers at the wholesale retailer ahead of national contract negotiations this year. The union signed the first national contract with the company in 2022, and Norfolk Costco workers voted to join last year. The Teamsters say they have set up a massive nationwide campaign to organize other Costco locations. DHL Teamsters, including some from the recently unionized facility in Kentucky, called out the alarming union-busting and anti-worker tactics of the global delivery and logistics giant during DHL Group's annual general meeting in Bonn, Germany, last week. In politics and legislation, after a rally by labor in Northern Virginia in a final bid to move the school board has continued to ignore labor and the community and unanimously voted to reject prevailing wages for construction of the Career Center. The Biden administration announced last week that coverage through the Affordable Care Act will soon be extended to DACA recipients, a move applauded by the Service Employees International Union, SEIU. 17 U.S. senators submitted a letter to the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee deliberating fiscal year 2025 funding levels for the Department of Veterans Affairs, outlining concerns over lack of funding. These concerns were echoed by the American Federation of Government Employees, AFGE, the largest VA union. In a statement, National President Reverend Everett Kelly said the VA is facing tens of thousands of vacancies across the country, and nearly all employees say that they need more frontline staff. Yet, the agency is moving forward with plans to eliminate 10,000 full-time jobs because of budget shortfalls, emphasizing the need for more resources. The 2024 Alabama legislative session is over. Some highlights: a bill requiring state agencies to acknowledge and respond to public records requests within set timeframes was passed and sent to Governor Ivey. There is no new ethics law, and gambling died, potentially for a while. House Speaker Nathaniel Ledbetter says he is not interested in even bringing it up in the next session. A bill to loosen child labor laws was passed, and a bill to remove incentives from employers who voluntarily recognize unions was also passed. That is it for Last Week in Southern Labor. If we missed anything, or if you want to subscribe and get this segment as a newsletter, then reach out to us at tvlr.fm/contact. You'll subscribe to the newsletter, and you can let us know if we missed anything and keep us in the loop in what's happening in your area. You know, some of this stuff is public. We can very easily pull election information from the National Labor Relations Board. We can kind of easily follow news as it relates to legislation across the South, although that is very hard, especially in states outside of Alabama where we are not located. But in particular, thinking of union affairs like internal union elections, internal officer elections, contract negotiations, things like this, it's very difficult for us to find that because a lot of times unions don't even make this kind of stuff public. Not for any reason like it's not, they don't want it public, they just don't talk about it, right? So if your union is going through internal officer elections, if your union is beginning contract negotiations, let us know and we'll include it on the newsletter.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.